Well, I'm standing in one of the most beautiful gardens in the Pacific Northwest, Heirloom Roses, and I'm here with Cheryl. And Cheryl, today we're going to be talking about companion plants for roses and ways that we can work them into our perennial garden beds. So, you know, what would be one of the first things that we should start thinking about when adding plants to a rose bed?
Well, you want to think about what a rose requires. The requirements are lots of sun and good drainage, and the fact that roses are heavy feeders.
Yeah.
So you'll be having them on a regular fertilizing routine through your growing season. So you need to choose companion plants that have that same regimen or like those same conditions.
And I'm sure that that would apply whether you're doing annuals, perennials, or shrubs. It all applies to those same principles, that you want to make sure you get like similarities going.
That's correct. And another thing you want to think about is color, texture, and form. You want to bring in interesting foliage, varying bloom, shapes and sizes, tall spikes of color. I love purples and blues with yellows and apricots, and there you have a lot of perennials and annuals that you can choose.
Well, you know, if done right, it really can almost spotlight the rose more than just having it with a bunch of other roses.
Correct. If you have other plants, other greens and yellows and blues around a rose, it'll just make that rose color pop.
Well, and you know, in a home garden, to a home gardener, it would almost be impossible to have roses like you guys have here on display because there's so much space. And if we do this companion planting, there's some keys that help with the actual soil and the growth of the rose itself.
That's right. Well, you don't want to overcrowd a rose. You don't want any plant to be competing for what it needs. So good spacing is important. Of course, your roses need good air circulation. That's very important. Roses grow at varying different heights. So in selecting your annuals or perennials, you can think about your lower growers. They can be like living,
petunias.
Like petunias are beautiful. And we lovingly call the naked knee look when a rose starts blooming at about 2 feet up, and that's unattractive. So you can think of bringing in plants that stay at about that height.
Like yarrow, the
like
lower growing yarrows would
That's
be great.
right, and that's beautiful.
Well, and you know, another key is that like if you do some yarrow around your roses, they're going to attract ladybugs, which roses get aphids, ladybugs eat aphids, so you've got a whole kind of synergy going on there.
That's correct, and that's one of the other really important things to think about is bringing in plants that will trap insects or pests that the roses don't like, but attract good things like the ladybugs. But William, there is one plant that many gardeners grow that we want to be wary of, and that is nasturtiums. Because they're notorious for aphids, and we don't want to bring more aphids into the garden. Yeah,
there's a limit of how much those poor ladybugs can eat, so you don't want a bunch of
They'll stay there as long as they're a host, but we don't want to attract them from the neighbors'
to
yards
jump on over.
Either,
And you know, there's depending on your soil and a bunch of things, which you could ask your independent garden centers, or better yet, come right out here and talk to you guys about this. If you've got good draining soil, you can even plant things that kind of make deer stay away, like the lavenders and stuff.
You can, and if you have well-drained soil, lavenders work well. There is a gal in Spokane that grows roses, and she is convinced that growing lavender in front of a rose will keep the rabbits away. And some deer also.
Well, you know, there's a lot of information about doing this, and it can really be interesting and fun and give roses a whole new feeling in your garden. So for more information, go to gardentime.tv. We'll click you over to the Heirloom Roses, or better yet, come out and visit with them and get some ideas for your own garden. Thank you so much, Cheryl.
Thank you, William.